Today we will discuss about the remaining experiments of machine elements laboratory. Okay. So far we have discussed the first 5 experiments up to non-destructive testing. The remaining 2 are experiments on hydrostatic bearing and hydrodynamic bearing. And before going into their detailing, let us first talk about an introduction to the bearings and other related issues. So these slides are available. Okay, you click these links here. But right now, the files are downloaded here. So let me show you from this slides. Okay. Now the function of a bearing, basically the theory part of bearing is discussed in your machine elements design or machine design course. Okay. And as well as some theory part of hydrodynamic bearing lubrication is dealt with in fluid mechanics as well. So function of a bearing, it is basically to support load, as you can see from here. This is the main purpose, to support load between two members which are in relative motion. Right? Say a shaft which is supported on a bearing, that part, if it is sliding contact, we say it is a journal bearing, it might be a roller bearing, etc., etc. Okay. And in addition, there are secondary and tertiary requirements of a bearing. Those are to reduce friction, to reduce wear, to reduce heating, etc., etc. So heating comes from the energy loss due to the friction force present in the bearing. Now, to reduce this heating effect or to reduce friction, we use lubricant. So this helps to minimize friction wear, as well as if there is a lubricant flow, it also helps in the cooling of the bearing as such. Okay, now in your design of bearings, these are the constraints which you have already encountered. Those are the cost, the service life, the space or volume requirement of that particular bearing, then the maintenance for the bearing, and this is again becomes more complicated due to the operating conditions, which is beyond your control. You have to accommodate this operating conditions, which are the temperature, load, service condition. These are the system requirements actually. So based on that, we design bearings, and there are different types of bearings. Okay. So the first classification we make is coming from the nature of contact or the nature of relative motion between the contact surface, that is rolling or sliding. So this rolling contact bearing is altogether a different type of bearing, where the scope of design is minimal, where we need to select the bearing as per our requirement. Okay. So in your case, the bearing design was mainly focused on this sliding contact bearing, and in sliding contact there are mainly two types. One is hydrodynamic, other one is hydrostatic. And then in hydrodynamic bearing also there are various types of lubrication. This fully developed part is hydrodynamic lubrication. Then there is an elasto-hydrodynamic lubrication part, boundary lubrication part, etc., etc. Okay, and then you see this bearing, this design of bearing, it has a very long history, starting from the time of Da Vinci, really, who first focused on some work on friction. Okay. And then there are various researchers. Even now there are many advanced research which is going on. That subject is known as the tribology, science of tribology. Okay. And if you are interested to know about the subject or future developments, there is a report available in open domain. You may consult this one. Okay. Now let us see something else. Now there are different types of bearing, as we have mentioned. Let us see how they perform, their relative performance. Okay. Now one is a sliding contact, the other one is rolling contact here. So this is mainly the comparison, rolling versus sliding, and among sliding we are considering hydrodynamic lubrication only. Which one is hydrodynamic lubrication? Bearing this particular curve. Okay. So understand which curve it is. This curve is, it is going, this is roller, rolling contact ball. This curve is your hydrodynamic, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And these two, they are rolling contact. One is a roller bearing, other one is a ball bearing. Okay, among these two, this is ball, this is roller. Now you see what is given here is friction coefficient versus rotational speed. Now in hydrodynamic bearing, at relatively lower rotational speed, the friction coefficient is quite high.
Yes.
Okay. But when the rotational speed is quite high at this region, so beyond this region, the friction coefficient of a hydrodynamic bearing is lower than that of rolling contact bearing. Now here again this is a rotational speed only, but actually later we will see that the unit pressure on the bearing is also another parameter. So that is not focused here, because this is a major purpose to support load. Magnitude of load is important, okay, which we express usually as the unit pressure on the bearing. So whatever, we understand that under a heavy load and at relatively higher rotational speed, hydrodynamic lubrication has still is advantageous than rolling contact bearing. But for ordinary application at low load and relatively lower rotational speed, these rolling contact bearings, they offer more advantage. Now let us go into the hydrodynamic lubrication part. This is the curve of hydrodynamic lubricated bearing, this curve hydrodynamic lubrication. So this curve has various regions. These are the regions. One is thin film region where the friction coefficient is quite high. Then there is a boundary zone, part of that is also known as hydrodynamic lubrication region, and this is fully developed hydrodynamic lubrication region. And here you note this axis is not only the speed, rather this is a number, and you say this is Zn by P or Bn by P, whatever, we will see to this. It is known as bearing characteristic numbers, bearing modulus, etc. etc. So these are the distinct regions of a hydrodynamic bearing. So for any hydrodynamic bearing, when it comes to rest, it follows this path. Again, when it starts, it follows this path. So that way also for frequent stoppage and starting, rolling contact bearings are favorable. Hydrodynamic bearings are more useful when we are going for a continuous operation. Okay. So these are the things which affects the bearing design. Now this is the mechanism. In rolling contact bearing, it is basically the contact. Okay. So there is a contact force coming between two metal surfaces. Hertz contact mechanism will be there. Contact stress will come from that Hertz equation. Okay, okay, know that. But in case of hydrodynamic lubrication, what happens is that a fluid film separates the two surfaces. Okay. At static condition, quite obviously, this outer surface of the shaft and then the bearing surface, they would be in contact at the lowest point.
Yes.
When it will just start up due to the starting torque, this contact point will move in this direction. Okay. And then when it attains full speed, when the real hydrodynamic action has come into play, this is the stable equilibrium. So this theory part you did earlier, right? And again, in this theory part, what is important is this property of the lubricant which fills up the gap. Okay. So in hydrodynamic lubrication, presence of this lubricant film is important. Without that, we won't get any hydrodynamic action. So there are special applications like gas bearings, or so air itself is a fluid that can also offer some sort of hydrodynamic action, but those are trivial for engineering application. We use separate lubricant.
Yes.
Now the most important property of lubricants are viscosity and density, and both these quantities, they are much dependent on temperature. If temperature change, these values, viscosity and density values of the lubricant, they change. So for measuring this quantities, there are several measures also, several instruments also, and then also you see one thing, how we define viscosity. You know that this viscosity, so basically the definition which is offered by Newton. Okay. And this is the definition following Newton's viscous law. There are some non-Newtonian fluid also. We are not going into that. So what is that viscosity law? It says that when any surface is in movement, is in relative motion with another surface, as there is a relative motion, there is a velocity gradient between these two surfaces. This is the velocity gradient. Understand? Say u is velocity, this is direction of u, and gradient means this dy, this is direction of y. Okay. And this is proportional to shear force. Shear force means to move this plate, we need to apply a force also to generate the velocity. If that force is F and the surface area here is A, then shear force is F by A. Fundamentally, this is equal to a constant which is the viscosity.
Yes.
And according to Newton's law, this du by dy has a linear distribution like this. So we can express this gradient as u by h. U is the net velocity here, h is the film thickness here. Is clear? So this is what? This viscous force is used to generate hydrodynamic action. As you see here, there is an inclined plate, and if such a flat plate is drawn over this inclined plane, you know that there will be a velocity gradient which will change, because this h value, this u by h value, this is changing gradually. So there would be some force which will come due to this velocity part, and following your Bernoulli's law, the total head is constant.
Yes.
So what you will get gradual rise in your static head, okay, and gradually thereby you will get the hydrodynamic action. This is what is happening here. Okay. That wedge is formed here and you are getting this hydrodynamic action. This theory is discussed earlier. So this is the mechanism. What is the unit of viscosity? There are fundamentally two types of viscosity definition. One is dynamic viscosity, other one is kinematic. So what is kinematic? You define this dynamic viscosity by its density. The density of the lubricant basically will get the kinematic viscosity. Their units, these are also known to you. Okay, you did that. And another unit which is of importance is this Sebolt universal viscosity or Sebolt universal secant, whatever you say. Okay, this helps us in measurement. Although there are various other measurements also, you can measure it directly from Stokes' law. The derivation of Stokes' law also you did in your fluid mechanics course, and you did this experiment as well, this falling sphere method.
Yes.
Okay. But usually for lubricant application or measurement of viscosity, this type of capillary tube viscometer is used, where the Sebolt viscometer is quite common. Also this Redwood, Engler, they are the other viscometers. Okay, there are rotary viscometers as well. Now let us see what is Sebolt universal viscosity or Sebolt universal secant. This is the time in seconds for collecting 60 cc of fluid flow through a orifice of standard viscometer. Okay, this every operating condition is specified. This is the ASTM standard specified. So this is what is the viscometer, Sebolt viscometer. This is the collection of fluid, 60 cc of such fluid collected. The time required will be measured, and there are some conversion. If we measure this Sebolt universal secant value, so Sebolt universal viscosity value, we get the viscosity, kinematic viscosity. Again, the kinematic viscosity and the dynamic viscosity, they are related with the density of lubricating oil. In general, this is an average value, but for any lubricant, you can find out what is the density of the lubricant. The temperature dependence of the lubricant oil is given by this equation. This is density at 15 degree centigrade, and for any other temperature, this is the density of the lubricant oil. Some thumb rule we use to obtain the density. Okay, this is we discussed, and then the other part is the temperature dependence of the viscosity value. To take care of that, we use this viscosity index. For any lubricant, there is a viscosity index value which helps to get the actual viscosity value at a given temperature. I am not going into the details of this viscosity index value, and if this is known, how to measure the particular viscosity value from that. Okay. Now this is a plot of your SAE grade of oil. This is a standard oil. If you purchase in the market, you will see the lubricants are specified by their SAE number. Okay. What is it? These are the SAE numbers you can see here. Okay. And what are the corresponding viscosity? These are viscosity values corresponding to different temperatures that is given in this graph. Here the relation between SI number and Seboldt universal. Second, at 54 degree, at 100 degree, they are given. Okay. So this is how we measure viscosity, density, and know about the temperature dependence of these things.
Yes,
These are fundamental concepts, you must know about them, as well as you must know about the theory behind the hydrodynamic lubrication. Now, this development here, coming to our experiment part, this hydrodynamic action, in this development there is a long path actually. I didn't discuss about the historical development in the path, in tribology, but one important relation was given by Petrov, okay, that was 1883. There is a theoretical background behind this, okay, but the idea is that this shaft and the bearing, you say this part is journal, which is inside the bearing. So this journal and the bearing, they are perfectly concentric. Okay, no eccentricity is here. And in such a case, this is how we can measure the friction coefficient at a given temperature when there is a particular load which is acting on this shaft basically. You know about this Petrov's equation, okay, in 1883, Petrov's model. But at the same time, in 1883, there was an experiment. Actually, the experiment was being done for a long time before. The result was published in 1883 by Beauchamp-Tower. Okay. So this particular paper, it came, this is the paper which was published in your Proceedings of the Institute of Mechanical Engineers. This journal you will also find now. Still this journal is, they are publishing the, okay. In 1883 this was the report, and what this observation that Tower made, this was the experimental setup by Beauchamp-Tower. This is the original setup. You can see this thing in some technological museum. Okay, he was a Britisher, might be in London, somewhere in suburb you will find this particular setup in the museum. So what is inside? This is not a full bearing, it is a sector top bearing. Okay. The bearing diameter was 4 inch, roughly 100 millimeter. This length was 6 inch, 150 millimeter. There was lubricant. The load was given here. Okay. This is the bronze. What are the materials? Other things you will get if you see those things. And then Tower carried out experiment with various types of openings and lubricant path. Okay. He measured the viscosity. The measurement technique of viscosity that he used, that is what we will be explaining also when we will go into the proper experiment of the hydrodynamic bearing. So here you see this hand wheel which was used to rotate this journal. This is the bearing here. Okay. And he obtained pressure at various locations. You see, these are some manometer tubes connected on this housing. Okay. The load part is this one, some load is supported here. And these observations, there were some typical observations. He was getting a high pressure at a particular location. These are different radial positions from which the pressure tapping was taken. In this angle measure you can see from here, and this observation, actually this one is the first, there were some more reports. Understand? This led to the development of hydrodynamic lubrication theory. Okay, now this particular paper, the theory was developed by Osborne Reynolds. Okay, so what is the importance of Tower's experiment? Because his observation was the major contributor to the development of hydrodynamic lubrication theory, because Reynolds could develop his theory based on the observation of Tower. Okay, this paper you can see, this is available open domain. Okay, the link is given, click here, you will find it. And Reynolds published this paper in 1886. You see the title, On the Theory of Lubrication and its Application to Mr. Beauchamp Tower's Experiment. Also he did another experiment, including an experimental determination of the viscosity of olive oil. And later on Reynolds published another paper also, probably in 1889. Okay. So this was the development of theory of lubrication coming from the experiment of Beauchamp Tower. So that is the thing. And another part is the hydrostatic lubrication, we didn't focus on that. Now what happens, hydrodynamic bearing or hydrodynamic action is available only when the rotational speed is quite high.
Yes, sir.
You have seen? Now what will happen if the rotational speed is very slow or very low value? Friction coefficient would be very high. Okay. And we have seen there are possibilities of using rolling contact bearing, but still then if the load is very high, say for example a very heavy structure, okay. You know that Angel in Victoria Memorial, on top of Victoria Memorial there is a weather angel. The wings of that angel,
Yes, sir.
that angel rotates with airflow, and it gives a direction of airflow as well. The weight of that angel is in tons. It's a bronze one, quite heavy, and to support that these ordinary rolling contact bearings will not do.
Yes, sir.
So in such cases what is required is some of hydrostatic lubrication is required, some sort of hydrostatic lubrication, and there are other applications, say for satellite tracking. Okay, there are radars and other things, say which rotates once in a day. Understand how slow is the rotational motion, but we need to minimize friction between the contacting surface. In such cases, this hydrostatic lubrication is used, where the contacting surfaces, you understand, this is the bottom surface and say this is the load which has a relative motion, and they are separated by this film thickness H0, where we are supplying a pressurized fluid through this path. Okay. So that way, if we supply pressure Pi within this pocket, this pressure will remain almost constant.
Yes, sir.
And these are the open to atmosphere. So this gauge pressure would be 0 here, this P0, and this is the profile. You know what is the theoretical description of that profile also. So this is a hydrostatic lubrication, filled with a lubricant supplied by an external pump. Okay. What about this pumping action in hydrodynamic bearing? The bearing itself acts as a pump. It generates the pressure. Due to that wedge shaped oil film, this generates the pressure. This pumping action is also there within hydrodynamic bearing,
Yes, sir.
but that can be generated at high rotational speed. Okay. So this is the basic theory.
Yes, sir.
So with this, next we will discuss about the which one? Say hydrodynamic bearing experiment we will be discussing next. These are some of the reference books. Mostly these are design theory books where you will get the basic theory part of the bearings. Okay. So let's stop it here.
Yes.
Then we will go into our next lecture.